My girlfriend of 1 year broke up with me after my head injury. 7 months later, I found out why. Earlier this year, my ex-girlfriend, Alexandra, broke up with me for reasons that she still hasn't told me herself. The weeks before the breakup are a blur to me. I'd sustained a head injury with no memory of how, and I suspect that's the reason I can't recall anything I'd supposedly done/said to her. Alex and I had both known each other since secondary school, but only became a couple during our first year of university. We're now on our second year and our accommodations are about 20 minutes apart. 3 days ago, Alex's diary came to me in the mail. Presumably she's the one who sent it to me, but I have no way of knowing. Upon reading the entries from the dates I have no memory of, I had an unshakable feeling of terror. One that hasn't left me since. Some additional context needed for this story. Bunny Bunny was an infamous Facebook group back in 2022 in which members would post oversaturated pictures of school kids, predominantly male, along with a rating out of 5 carats. This was often accompanied by an unsettling caption like, "Unique taste," or "Beautiful mouth." The group began to circulate around most schools in my area, and it was all anyone would talk about. The leading theory among students was that local predators were using the group to rate potential victims, but there was never any evidence to support this. The group was promptly banned from Facebook after the parents of each child featured had discovered the posts. After the incident and a few dozen complaints to my school, we were forbidden from talking about it again out of respect for the students involved. Below are extracts from the diary that I've shortened to include only the parts about me, during the days leading up to our breakup. Tuesday, January 7th. Daniel was ignoring me all day. He usually sends me a cute message every morning to start the day on a good note. But today he didn't message me until about 5 p.m. When he finally responded, he asked if I wanted to come over, and I enthusiastically said yes. But when I arrived, his behavior was unusual. He gave me an odd smile and appeared to be acting shy around me, glaring at me like he was starstruck. I thought it was cute and assumed he just thought I looked really pretty that day. There was also a noticeable bruise on the left side of his forehead, which was worrying me. But he was dismissive whenever I mentioned it. "It's nothing, stop worrying." I decided to drop it because he was visibly annoyed by my comments and I was afraid I'd embarrassed him. Friday, January 10th. Daniel's behavior is becoming concerning. He isn't attending his lectures like he normally does, and he keeps forgetting basic things like where he's left his keys, dates we have planned, passwords for his emails, etc. And there's this awful smell coming from his bed. He's also picked up weird habits, ones that he's never showed signs of having before. Habits such as licking his lips whenever he sees me, smelling my hair, squeezing me tighter than he usually would whenever we embrace, and barely blinking. I think the worst of it, though, is the obvious decline in his hygiene. He isn't showering or brushing his teeth unless I bring it up, and I have to practically force him to. We share the same skincare products, and it's blatantly obvious that he's neglecting them. Monday, January 13th. Last night, I went to Daniel's accommodation after my lecture, and he was even more disheveled than he has been for the past few days. His eyes were bloodshot, and his breathing was very apparent. It almost sounded as though he was running out of air. I asked him if he was feeling okay, and he practically lunged at me and started aggressively making out with me. This caught me by surprise, so I pushed him away as hard as I could, but still, he kept trying to climb on top of me. I yelled, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" And that had seemed to snap him out of it, but periodically throughout the rest of the day he kept trying to convince me to sleep with him. As the night grew darker, Daniel became more frustrated. Whenever I dared to shut down his creepy sexual advances, he'd just stare at me like a wild animal. Honestly, it was beginning to creep me out. He had this expressionless look on his face. He wasn't blinking, and his eyes were even starting to well up with tears. I went to go brush my teeth to get away from the situation, but when I came back a few minutes later, he was completely knocked out, like he'd already been asleep for hours. I realized his eyes were probably so bloodshot due to exhaustion, and, fortunately for me, the sleep had finally caught up to him. Relieved, I grabbed my phone and immediately called an Uber, so I didn't have to walk back to my accommodation alone. But right after making the payment, I saw something moving in the lower corner of my eye. I quickly shifted my gaze downwards and saw a person's hand, slowly creeping its way out from underneath Daniel's bed. There's no words to describe the fear I felt in this moment. I was stood, paralyzed, whilst this middle-aged man started emerging from below my boyfriend's unconscious body. The man was slightly overweight, balding, and he looked like a week-old corpse. After he stood upright, we locked eyes for a moment, and his mouth twisted into the most horrific smile I've ever seen before uttering the words, "Thank you." At that moment, I snapped out of whatever petrified trance I was in, screamed as loud as I could, and ran straight out of the building without wasting any time to grab any of my possessions. Thursday, January 16th. I've been staying at my parents' house for the past 3 days just trying to wrap my head around the whole Daniel situation. He's gone back to sending me good morning texts like nothing's happened, and he claims to have no idea who the man under his bed was. What I want to know is why he said thank you. Was he recording us? Was Daniel aware of this and getting paid to fulfill that man's perverted fantasy of spying on a 19-year-old girl? Maybe that's why he was so determined to have sex with me all day, and why he got mad when I kept refusing. I think I'm just going to cut him out of my life because this whole situation has tainted the way that I see him. Friday, January 17th. This morning I received an email from a former classmate at my old school with a link attached. The link was for a Facebook group called Rabbit Rabbit. I clicked the link out of curiosity and wasn't at all prepared for what I was about to see. The group was bunny in everything but name. Hundreds of posts of children and teens being rated with carrots. These creeps had been active and posting this whole time, at least 2 posts a day for the last year. My anger was short-lived though and quickly turned into horror when I scrolled down and was greeted by a familiar face on a post from Tuesday 14th. The profile picture of the user who posted it was the same twisted smile I saw back in Daniel's room. It was the man under his bed. His username was Elmer Fudd, and to my utter shock, he posted an oversaturated selfie of Daniel, with 5 carat emojis across his forehead. The caption read, "Comfortable skin. End of diary extracts." I checked the selfie used in the Rabbit Rabbit post, which is surprisingly still up, and I don't remember taking it. I thought Alex was lying when she asked me about a so-called man who crawled out from under the bed. I hope somebody here can make sense of all of this, but I think it's best I try not to contact her anymore.